everybody. It's Dr. Rickman. It's Thursday, so today is Thankful Thursday. I hope you guys have had an unbelievable week to this point. Remember, even if you've had a challenging week, if you're still breathing, you're still in the fight. I do not want you to give up on your aspirations, your dreams, your desires, your hopes. I want you to understand that every day is a journey, every day is a challenge, every day is another opportunity to do something better, to do something different, to elevate the level at which you are attempting to live life. And so hold on, trust me. I've been in almost any imaginable situations. I want to sort of talk to you about loss. I want to talk to you about the process of becoming better outside of it, because here's something. One of my clients suggested that I watch a clip from a comedian who is actually from my city, Ali Sadiq, and it's Domino Effect 2. And she suggested that I watch it. She's been suggesting that I connect with him, and I'm definitely going to work on doing that ASAP. But I went ahead and watched it, and the whole thing is actually about the accumulative effect of loss, how one loss leads to behaviors and then another loss. And when you're not dealing with these losses, when there's not the proper engagement or intervention and the work that needs to be done on healing after a loss, you get this stacked effect. And if you don't get some of those dominoes out of the way, those things that just keeps toppling over one after another, you don't give yourself time to heal, time to make corrections. And so I want to really and truly help. Now, those of you who have followed me for some time, you know that I have been very heavy in one-on-ones in the previous years, working with people one-on-one, because that's the way you get the best results. But it has its limitations, and I've done a great deal of work on scaling out over the last year and a half. And my passion is still one-on-one, because there are places you can get to and go when it's just you and another individual, and it's all about them in a moment. Doing conferences, you can engage a lot of different topics. You can reach a lot of people, and a lot of people are better. But when you're working with someone one-on-one, it's definitely different. And I think that this particular segment of Thankful Thursday is going to highlight why I'm going to continue to do one-on-ones, obviously not at the rate that I've done them in the past, but actually I'm making an offer today over the next 24 hours, or however many people will enroll, that if you enroll and you sign up for the bronze coaching counseling package, that you'll get an upgrade to the to the gold package. So you go from 12 weeks, 12 sessions with me, which is very effective and intensive. A lot of people start there. But almost all the people that start at the bronze end up at the platinum, actually, which is interesting. But you can go to the gold, which is 26 weeks. So 6 months, from 3 months to 6 months. And that's in the description box. And I'm going to leave that there. But let's talk. You know, we live in a culture where very few people talk about their setbacks. Very few people talk about their losses. Very few people talk about the things that go wrong in their lives. I try to be as transparent as I can without exposing my life, because other people are involved in my life and they have a right to their privacy. But I experience loss. I go through dark moments. I go through difficult times. And how I manage that darkness has a massive impact on the next week, the next month, the next year. And one of the things that we tend to do, and I was sharing this with someone yesterday, one of the things we tend to do is do the default. It is what it is. I'm good. I got it. And you just move on. And because the thing you can't do is say, I'm hurt. The thing you can't do is say, I feel betrayed. The thing you can't do is say, I don't know what I'm going to do next. The thing you can't say is, I need help. So what happens is you internalize it. Now, when you internalize it, there are a lot of things that happen psychologically and physiologically that are going to have long-term implications. And it's going to impact your physical health, your mental health, your emotional stability, and your ability to develop relationship, take advantage of opportunities. One of the biggest problems with trauma is its interruption of ability to seize opportunities, to literally see an opportunity in front of you and be able to move on it can be massively impacted by loss. You don't have to be shot at to be traumatized. In this stand-up, Ali starts his segment of loss with simply losing his sick girlfriend at the age of 16. But her impact on his life and where he was going and what he was trying to do to sustain that relationship literally spin him around in a different direction. And this can happen. And so what I'm saying is, not only do we need to be healthy, this is why I also work with adolescents. I work with adolescents and young adults, and obviously I work with clients who, I have a client that is probably close to 70, if not 70. And he and a number of others, a number in their 60s, and still finding growth, still finding healing, still finding the path. Life doesn't end at 40. It doesn't end at 50. It doesn't end at 60 or 70. So much of what you're going to do that has meaning in this life are going to be in your golden years, when you have wisdom, when you've had a chance to evaluate the path, when you've had a chance to sit up and say it didn't destroy me, and be able to look at it without the bitterness, without the anger, without the hatred. Let me tell you, I was born to a 15-year-old mother and an absent father. Fortunately, my great-grandparents, her grandparents, took me and adopted me. But there were still questions, because you know that, hey, these people love me and they were mom and dad to me. And I will never, ever marginalize the impact. How I measure myself as a man is directly associated to the man I saw in C.D. Wallace. The love that I distribute and try to give was the heart that's reflected in Ernest Lee Wallace. And it is immensely emphatic and important and powerful in my life, but it never stopped me from wanting a mother-son relationship with my mom, or a father-son relationship with my father, who I never met. And I can't tell you the devastating force of that. What makes me, I think, a great counselor, a great therapist, a great coach, a great life strategist is I have things to pull on. I'm an empath. I feel when I'm working with my clients, I feel their pain. It's not X's and O's and strategies and DSM assessments, and it's like that may have never happened to me, but I know how I felt when this happened. Some of the things you've been through, I've been through. I feel you. But let me tell you, this is what we're going to do. And it's what makes me good. But I'm going to tell you something. I need you to understand that loss has an impact. And I'm just going to show you this real briefly. What does this have to do with thankfulness? It's hard to be thankful when you're hiding and disguising your pain. When you are pretending that you're good when you're not. When you are sitting up and saying, I got it, but you are slipping. And you're on this spiral downward into darkness and the abyss of disruption, destruction, and everything else that doesn't align with the things you really truly deserve in life. But you're going to have to make your mind up that you're going to acknowledge what happened. You're going to confront it. You're going to deal with it. You're going to take it head on. Because see, although I had a relationship with my mom, it wasn't maternal. It was more like she was my big sister. She was kidding. My mom never disciplined me. My mom, it was, I'm hanging out. You got to understand, she's only 15 years older than me. I'm being reared in a different household with people who are much older than me. So I'm coming up with the same guidelines. She coming up, literally slept in the same room she slept in because they reared her too. And so I'm literally growing up in her room. and all of these different things. And then there's my father, my biological father, and there's this yearning. And my great grandmother on my mom's side and my grandmother on my father's side worked together tirelessly to try to get me connected to my dad, but he would never make the meetings. They would be there, but he wouldn't show up. And I just had this thing, but I always had this deep belief that one day, man, me and my dad are going to catch up. Me and my dad are going to be okay. And we're going to do this, this, and this. And one day while I was in middle school, I come home and I walk in the door and my grandfather says, come here. And my grandfather was very blunt. This is a man born in 1909. He don't sugarcoat nothing. He just say, look, we're going to a funeral. We're going to a wake on Friday and a funeral on Saturday. Your dad died. So in that moment, every dream, every idea of what I was going to do, the fact that my father was eventually going to see who I was and want to spend time with me, all of that went away. I can't tell you the impact of that loss. The love I was getting from my grandparents saved my life, but it did not stop the pain of wondering why. That's loss. Then I had lost it for good. And then we go off into a new era, and I'm chasing something, and I'm doing this, I'm starting that, I'm doing this, I'm trying to become this, I'm building this, I'm doing all these things. And even in high school, my journalism teacher realized what was going on, and she realized I was living with my grandparents, and there was this big age gap. So she took me on. God rest her soul. She passed away about a year ago. But God rest her soul, Miss Myra Nell Williams. Oh my God. Well, Myra Nell Leonard. Her maiden name was Williams. She married my coach, Coach Leonard. And they took me and they would get me on the weekends. And she knew my story. So she encouraged me in journalism to write an article on absentee fatherhood. That article was entitled The Invisible Father. And I learned about the impact. And this is in the mid 80s. So I learned about the impact of absentee fatherhood. I learned about how it plays out. And I wrote the article and I said, there's so much more to say about this. I'm going to eventually write the book. You know, you go on and you get out and you get things ahead of you and you're chasing all this. And so at one time I said, this is the time. I had so much going on in my life. I said, this is the time. And what I realized in writing that book, which is also entitled The Invisible Father, Reversing the Curse of a Fatherless Generation, my first book. When I'm writing that book, it's cathartic, it's therapeutic. Why? Because I understood that all this success chasing that I was doing in my 20s was me trying to prove to a man who was no longer on this planet that I was worth his time. That's the deep pain of abandonment. That's the deep pain of loss. And it comes in all different types of ways. It might not be your dad. It might not be your mom. It might have been your first love. It might have been the father of your children or the mother of your children. It might be that person that left you standing at the altar or something similar to it. It might be the person that promised you an opportunity and took it away from you. But whatever it is, there's this emptiness that comes with loss that has to be addressed. Saying I'm good and doing what we do in our environment, especially in the Black community. There's this, I can't let anybody know. Don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. Don't never let them see you sweat. But while you are hiding the sweat, you're crumbling underneath the pressure of the hurt, the heartache, the disappointment, the frustration, the fear, and all of the other things that come along with it. I use this onion concept when I work with my clients, because whether it's I can't get to the next level financially, I can't get to the next level in my business, I can't get to the next level in relation, I'm having whatever it is, it's something there. It's an origin. And that's kind of what Ali was talking about. It started with that loss, that one loss. And then he names two other losses over the course of this stand-up, but it starts with that loss. And I'm not going to get off into his thing. You need to watch it. It's a real dope stand-up. He really, I've always liked him, but I really truly felt that. And the genius at which he delivered it and the authenticity of the pain he showed in the middle of it, it's dope. But here's the thing, and anybody out there that happens to know him in the city, if you're in the city and you happen to know him or know somebody that knows, tell him I'm trying to get at him. Tell him if he needs to know why, all he has to do is pick up my book, Born in Captivity. If he needs a copy, I'll get him one. But we've got so many things that intersect that we need to be working together in our perspectives align in the sense of what we want for our people. And I'll leave it at that. But hey, here's this thing. You've got this heartache, you've got this hurt, you've got this pain, you've got this darkness that happened. With me, it started with the loss of my father, again, who I never met. Imagine there's this guy you want to know because everybody talks about how much you're so much like him, how you move like him, how your voice is like his, all these different things. And you've never met him. You don't know. They know his mannerisms and the idiosyncrasies, but you never seen him, and you want to see what it's all about. You want to connect it. And then the first time you see this person, he's in a coffin. And this is back when they lowered the coffin while you were there, and you watching your dreams descend into the grave, and they can't be resurrected because he's gone. And what I found when I was writing that book is I was literally spending my life trying to impress someone that wasn't even there anymore. That's trauma. That's darkness, and it hides. Most people don't even realize that they're acting out of their trauma. They're acting out of their hurt, that they are harming others because they haven't dealt with their own pain. There's a saying, and it's cliche-ish, but it's scientifically backed, that traumatized people tend to traumatize people. Not because there's this nefarious intent to harm, but the protective mechanisms of trauma response will have you acting out instead of healing. What I want us to do is be okay with needing to heal. What I want us to do is be okay with saying, I need help. What I want us to do is be able to look at a person and know they need more than I will pray for you. This isn't me ditching prayer. I pray every day. It's a big part of my life, but there has to be action in you. You pray to God so that you get what you need, so that you can be a reflection of God in the lives of the people who need to feel God. And it happens in different ways. With me, it's in the way that I work with people. In someone else, it's the way they talk to people. In someone else, it's the way that they create mechanisms that allow people to come to places. Everybody has a way to be a positive positive force in the lives of people who are in need of recovery. I've written countless books on trauma. I've done workshops. I've done lectures. But it's the work that I live for, sitting in front of somebody. And they're just telling me, hey, man, I've been trying to get this business off the ground. I've been trying to get this part of my life straight now. I see these opportunities, but I can't go after whatever it is. I'm stuck. I'm frozen. All of these different things that people tell me. I know it's something back there that started this. Let's go get it. But you don't do it by saying, hey, okay, what's this one thing in life that happened in your life? No. Let's go back. Let's peel back the layers. That's why I call it the onion concept, because I start just peeling back. We start where we are right now. You aren't able to seize the opportunity. Let's peel the layer back. Let's peel the layer back. What's going on here? Let's look at it and see. And then the next layer. And while we're doing it, we're developing a relationship of trust. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to malign you. Your secrets are safe with me. You've got 100% protection against that. You have 100% confidentiality. I'm here to help you. Nobody that outside of this room, outside of this space that we're in digitally and virtually will hear about this. Now, if you want me to talk to somebody or share with somebody or whatever, we can work that out. But this is me and you. We're going somewhere. We're going to get somewhere. There is a process to get there. I don't care how broken you are. Healing is possible. I don't care how much pain you've been through. Healing is possible. I don't care if you're dealing with abandonment issues because of daddy. I've been there. Healing is possible. I don't care if you're dealing with frustration and trauma because you were abused as a child. Healing is there. All of these things. I've literally got multiple women in their 60s who were molested as children by men in their families, incest. And I'm telling you, they carried it, and their lives reflect that they carried it. And now at 64, 66, they're finding out that they could have been living their lives. But what I try to get them to, you can't go back and change that. But what you can do is say, this is the day that my life changes. The moment that I decide that I'm not carrying it anymore. Now, the process of putting it down is just that. It is a process. And I'm going to tell you, we came into the game traumatized. You got to understand something. We came into the game traumatized, and we are the most exposed to prolifically traumatic events and traumatic situations. Sitting up every day, accumulative trauma, complex trauma, acute trauma. We're dealing with it all. It ain't just PTSD with us. It's complex trauma. That means multiple instances of trauma stacked on top of each other, unaddressed. We're dealing with accumulative trauma. These microaggressions that if you look at just one of them, it may not seem traumatizing, but when you start to stack them in succession, they're eating away at you, and they create the same traumatic response as acute trauma over time. We have a need to stand up and become, but it starts with healing. It starts with acknowledging it. It was when I wrote that book that I realized it's time to put this thing down. And I have no ill will towards my father, but I had to put it down. I had to come to know him through my siblings, his children by other women. I had to get to know him through them. I had to learn about him through them. I had to be okay with the fact that that's not how it's going to be for me, but it gave me an impetus to want to touch people, to want to help people, to want to give people an opportunity. But you have to want to do something different. You have to want to become whole. You have to want this thing that seems in the distant. I'm telling you, you can have it. It won't be withheld from you, but it's going to cost you time, energy, effort. And if you need help, it may cost you money and therapy. It's okay. I have 2 therapists. I'm considered, one of the best life strategists, performance psychologists, not just in America. I've been called to lecture in places like Germany, Netherlands, Sweden. I've got clients in those areas, the UK, Australia, Perth, and Sydney. And what I can tell you is I have more than one therapist. I have my primary therapist, and I have a spiritual therapist. Then I have a spiritual confidant. Nobody carries loads by themselves well. We aren't built to do that. We're built to plug in. And the problem is we live in a society that shames us for plugging in, that shames us for needing help, that shames us for not being on our A game all the time. Men, this is definitely the case for us. We're constantly in competition with what the next guy is doing because we think we're being judged by how well we measure up to everybody. Your job is to be the best version of you. Find yourself. There's a bunch of things you hear. Find yourself, but we got to learn to come together and come right as sisters. Stop being catty with one another. There's a uniqueness in you that you should be bonding and coming together and lifting each other. And together we should also be loving on one another and caring for one another and encouraging one another. Instead of talking about you doing what, you should be saying, hey, maybe you should talk to somebody. And hey, don't get me wrong. Nothing wrong with going someone and talking to somebody in your church. But if they don't have the professional capacity to deal with the trauma and understand it can be more damaging than good. There's a reason why God has allowed us to gain an understanding of this thing. Now, if you go back in the Bible, it tells you guard your hearts and minds constantly. It tells you that you need to take control of your thoughts. It tells you over and over as a man thinking. So it's giving you the science of psychology way back then. So it's not nothing. It's in other words, you still have to, after you pray, carry out some things. See, David prayed and he encouraged himself in the Lord, but he still had to go back and recover what was taken. You're going to have to possess it through faith, through action, through healing. That for every person here, if you are a person of faith, whether it's Abrahamic faith, Christian, Islam, whatever, I'm gonna talk to you first. Whatever it is that you desire, whatever it is you're dealing with, let me tell you something. It's on the other side of that healing experience. And I can hear for you God saying, by your faith, you're healed. But what? Faith without works is what? Dead. Now, for people who may be in other faiths, the same principles applies. There's a source. And in this source is the answer to everything. But you have to seek it. And then you have to apply it. You can't escape the design. You can call it a bunch of different things, but you can't escape the design. This universe responds to faith. But faith requires action. I'm challenging you in the darkness of your loss, whatever it is, seek healing. Let someone help you in whatever way and area and level you need. I am declaring, not in some mystical way, but in the power that's invested and given to me as a creation of God to call things that are not as though they were. I am declaring a massive healing amongst our people. Now, there has to be a conglomerate work when that happens. There has to be a conglomerate work when that happens. But I'm claiming it. We can't keep walking in the fog of this traumatic trance, as Dr. Cleo Monago often says. It's time to come out of our stupor. It's time to open our eyes and wipe the lens of our suffering so that we can see what we are capable of being, but it's going to require us to initiate the process. It's not what you say you want, it's what you act upon that reveals your faith. So again, I'm encouraging you to believe that whatever it is that you have been carrying can be placed down and properly processed, and that you can move forward without the hurt and the pain. It's possible. And I'm telling you that when you put down the pain, things clear up. There's no easy and smooth sailing in this thing. I'm not selling you a bill of goods. I'm telling you that there's something inside of you that can push you through anything, but you need to awaken it. You need to look at it. We're carrying some things, and the scary thing is, in my studies and in my observations and working with clients and doing research and all these things, is that we have become so astute at masking our trauma that we've convinced ourselves that it doesn't exist. But we get frustrated with all the things that it's producing. It doesn't exist, but I can't keep a relationship going for more than X amount. It doesn't exist, but I can't get out there and actually make the moves I need to make to have the life I want. It doesn't exist, but I don't feel good or confident about myself. It doesn't exist, but I'm abrasive and rude to people for no reason. It doesn't exist. Let me tell you something. It exists. And it's time for you to step outside and look at it and say, I'm going to do something about it. I challenge you to make a move. That's going to be it. I'm going to close out here. Don't forget, as I said, right now for the next 24 hours, I'm accepting one-on-ones. And I'm giving a free upgrade to the people who sign up in this 24-hour period from the bronze to the platinum. We offer afterpay for those who need help making the payment. But if you really and truly are serious, take the action, take the step, make the move. I'm going to be available during this time for any questions for someone who wants to make it happen. But this is a window where I'm going to take people. And like I said, I'm not taking as many as I've taken in the past, but I want to work with people who want to see massive change in their lives in every area. And it starts at the root. So that's it. Now, as I always say, I live my life on full so that when I leave this place, I die on E. It's simply, I am not taking my potential with me. I will have touched every life possible. I will have shared every word of encouragement possible. I will have written every word of empowerment in books and articles as possible. I will have done every lecture and speech. I will have created every program. I will have given of myself, leaving a legacy that speaks of me long after I'm gone. I challenge each and every person to do the same thing. There's a time. The time is now. Don't get lost in the fog and look up 20 years from now and still need to do what you could do today. On that note, I'm out here. Thank you guys for dropping in. I hope that what you heard, you were blessed with. If it is, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you own a channel where you follow. But whatever you do, make today the day that you make that move and that choice to change things, because on the other side of that choice is exceptional, is extraordinary, is phenomenal, and you deserve it all. On that note, I'm out.